Hello, how are you doing today? Thank you very much for being here, watching this video and listening to my podcasts. Have you ever heard the saying that the devil lives in the details? Well, today we're going to discuss quite a bit of details regarding Bible study, and I hope they will inspire you to do the same by yourself. For example, does the Bible really requires us to read it? It actually instructs us not just to read it, but to elaborately seek it too. Search it and study it, according to my mentors and as I have observed. And to what extent we are to go with it. There is no limit to that at all. Let me bring you a simple example to what exactly do I mean. Here is a short story to illustrate the myriads of mistakes we do daily when we ignore details. A nearsighted minister glanced at the note that Mrs. Jones had sent to him by an usher. The note read, "Bill Jones, having gone to sea, his wife desires the prayers of the congregation for his safety." Instead, the minister, failing to observe the punctuations, he startled his audience by announcing that Bill Jones, having gone to see his wife, desires the prayers of the congregation for his safety. In biblical Hebrew, there is no punctuation and no capitalization, only a semicolon signaling the end of a sentence. Translators have tried to bring out, according to their understanding, the original meaning by adding punctuation and chronology to the words. But as the earlier story points out, the meaning of a sentence can be hugely affected by even minor adjustments and placement of a simple comma. In translating the English King James Version, men from different backgrounds and religions participated in the process of word selection and punctuating. Sometimes extra words were added if they made clearer the meaning of a text. Aside from the difficulties of translation, scholars are still debating the theology of the original Hebrew. Let me show you what I mean. The first 3 verses of chapter 1 in Genesis read, "In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, Let there be light. And there was light." Here we find a wealth of periods, commas, and semicolons to represent pauses, inevitably shaping and giving shades of meaning to the English sentence. Of course, they are included in order to clarify the point. But what point? Of original nothingness from which creation sprung? Of original shapelessness, formless, dark material and chaos? As the wellspring of life, is this really what the Hebrew is suggesting? Let's take a look. To me, reading the English King James Version suggests that the presence of matter is without form, and it is void, and there is darkness upon the face of the deep, and all this is called earth. It seems by any means an inescapable interpretation in this case. But according to the English God soon will be separating light and darkness, therefore suggesting that the state of Genesis 1 verse 2 would be the state of God. Isn't that contrary to the character of God as we get to know him in the rest of the Bible? Did God ever call the conditions of verse 2 good? Nope. The first thing he calls good is when he sees light in verse 4. Therefore, it is safe to say that the pre-existing state of darkness, void, and formlessness is contrary to the nature of God, in whom there is no darkness. For he is called and understood consistently the God of light, order, and life throughout the whole Bible, and not of lifelessness. Therefore, God couldn't be separating light and life out of the darkness, but rather penetrating it in the very beginning with his word. Let's see what happens to the meaning of verses 1 to 3 when we remove much of the punctuation and return to the original Hebrew version. Here we go. The verses would read the following. Now God creates the heaven and the earth, and the earth is without form and void, and darkness upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moves upon the face of the waters. And God says, let light come into being, and light comes into being. Quite truthfully, it sheds a whole new light on the entire story. If I were to put it into unadulterated English, this is what I would have to say. Now God is creating heaven and earth, and the earth is without form, without void, and without darkness upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moves upon the face of the waters. And God says, let light come to be, and light comes to be. This line of thinking either means that God dwells in heaven, since heaven literally means the dwelling place of God, and earth hang out somewhere without form, without void, without darkness. Then the Spirit of God decided to move on the surface of the waters, and more like hovering over it. And light was non-existent until God spoke, let there be light. So where does the idea of light would be coming out of darkness come from? Nowhere. Not from the original text. It should rather be read as light and darkness was kept separate. It would also mean that God is beyond light and darkness because he spoke light into being. Therefore, light is a created being. I am not sure I have clarified much for you today, but if I cause you to detach from the traditional understanding of this paragraph, maybe, and just maybe, cause you also to investigate this creation story for yourself, then I have done my work for today, and you will not only read the Bible, but study it. I know I am puzzled by it, and I will be pondering and meditating this word. How about you? Have a great day. Amen, and bye-bye.